Well, guys, it's finally here. The event of the century. You've been hearing Matt hint about podcasting about Gilmore Girls for weeks, and it's finally here.
Do we have to do it? Are we locked into this, Brian?
Yes, we're locked in,
But
whether you like it or not.
I could come up with something else. We could, instead of doing a podcast, we can just go to the local diner, get some coffee, some burgers, grab some tacos somewhere else. We could drive around the city and make fun of all the people that are walking around.
No, we have to do a podcast, and then we can go have burgers.
Hey everyone, welcome back to TV Guys, now with 20% less Muppets references, but for this episode we'll have 30% more obscure references. We'll do more name dropping than William N. Copley. I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
I'm Tammy.
And she's a guest! We have a first-time guest today. Not only is this Tammy's first time on our podcast, but this is her first podcast ever. So, Tammy, how are you doing? Are you ready for this?
I am sure, yes. I didn't have time to prepare much because I've been working so much, but I've seen the series 800,000 times, so I'm pretty confident.
That is 799,999 times more than I have seen it. So.
No, I feel so sad for you.
I probably range somewhere in the maybe like 20 times. So it's like when we're doing the podcast, I knew we had to bring in a guest because of Matt's limited knowledge. Also, I didn't know that Matt was going to watch the entire series, which shows his commitment.
Pretty impressive, yes. 7 seasons.
So if you are like a first time listener and you haven't been listening too long, we've been talking about how I've been watching Gilmore Girls, and I've watched like I've watched all the seasons for like the last 2 months, and every single day I would watch like 3 hours of it. Although I had to watch it on 2 times speed, so I ended up like cutting it down to like an hour and a half just to be able to get through everything. So I've like had this Gilmore Girls like binging that I've been doing, like true binge. And I'm ready to get it all out and finally talk about this show. And so what we're doing for today's episode is we're going to talk about, like, Brian and I have compiled some of our top moments. And I just realized I jumped ahead of more of the intro. Tammy, I want to know a little bit more about you.
You don't need to know anything about me. I'm Brian's cousin. I'm the coolest one. That's like, I'm not.
So, Tammy, for those who don't know you, what are some shows, so that we can get a little bit of a feel of your taste? What are some shows that you love to watch or that are top of your list?
All of them, all the shows. I don't know.
Jersey Shore.
No. I do have some guilty pleasure reality shows, but we won't talk about those.
We already did that episode.
Yeah.
Gilmore Girls is one of my faves because I saw it during all the shows watched during my formative years, right? So they're nostalgic for me.
Yeah.
Full House, Saved by the Bell, all the ones. I listened to your Disney episode, so all those shows.
Oh, nice.
Yes, yeah. I love those. One Tree Hill. What do I watch now? I like Law and Order, SVU. I but I watched all 22 seasons in order. That's a lot.
And here we are talking about my commitment to Gilmore Girls. That's 7 seasons and a spinoff. And yes. Law and Order SVU is 22 seasons.
Maybe 23.
Oh my gosh.
No, I mean, it took a long time, but I'm kind of addicted to TV. I'll like watch when I'm getting ready, in the morning or whenever, when I'm cleaning, when I'm things.
Same thing. I rarely just sit and watch TV. I'm always doing something.
Yeah. Me too. I'm working. I get to work while I watch it. It's awesome. I love watching stuff at work.
My boyfriend Billy and I are very into crime shows right now, like documentaries about serial killers, and then I can't go to sleep at night. But they're so interesting.
Brian, do us a favor and edit that so you can just have Tammy say, my boyfriend Billy and I are really into crime, and then just cut it off.
You're going to say serial killers.
we really are fans of this whole crime thing. It's pretty great.
Oh gosh. That's so funny. No, I like a wide variety of shows.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about some of our top Gilmore Girls moments coming back to the show here. And Brian and I, we have like a couple of moments that we love on there. And then we also just want to, because it's such a big show and a lot of stuff has happened on it, a lot of seasons, that we'll just throw out a bunch of things. Tammy's just going to jump in, roll with it, and flow with it. So, Brian, I'm going to start with you of like, what is one of your favorite moments in the show?
Favorite moment is actually a little one, and when we thought about doing moments, it's the first one that came to mind, and it's just a little moment, as at the end of the episode where the song "What a Wonderful World" by the Ramones version is playing, and you see Luke just walking past Jess with a sledgehammer, and he just goes and smashes a hole into the wall. Then he gives us the sledgehammer to Jess and says, "That's your room. Finish up. We'll hold hands and skip afterwards." Because it's a callback to earlier in the episode when they were looking for a new apartment, and then Jess kept sarcastically saying, "Oh yeah, then we'll hold hands and skip afterwards." And so Luke had bought the building next to his, so he now had that. So he smashed into the wall and basically was renovating his place to be bigger for Jess. And it's that moment of like, he didn't say what he was doing. He went and smashed a hole in the wall and said, "All right, finish up."
Nice. When Jess came on the scene, I was prepared to like him more because I really like Milo Ventimiglia, and I've seen him in stuff after Gilmore Girls. So like I first was exposed to him in the show Heroes, and then of course we've watched This Is Us, and so I'm like, oh, I love this character. And then like he was the way he was, I'm like, I don't specifically love the character, I just like the actor. So it was a little off-putting because he's played characters that you are very easy to root for, especially Jack Pearson. Very easy to root for him in This Is Us. And so it was a little jarring to see him be Jess. But I'll have to say, in the Year in a Life, you get a little bit more of like a grown-up version of it. And I really liked what they did with his character in Year of the Life.
Even those 2 episodes in season 6 when he came back for a couple episodes, even that showed a lot of growth. And then knowing that and knowing the whole backstory about him and his mom and everything, looking back, you can kind of appreciate him more in the earlier seasons, even though he did kind of act like a jerk for seasons 2 and 3.
Yeah. He's just a punk, though. I mean, he's just a dumb kid, He had to grow up.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, Tammy, were you Team Dean or were you Team Jess, or you're like Team Rory? You're better than both of them.
Didn't even mention Team Logan.
Rory, more alive.
Not yet.
I was just going to mention that too. I'm going to give an probably unpopular answer, Team all of them, because I liked them all for different seasons of her life. You got to have a Dean. You got to have a bad boy Jess. You got to have a Logan. No, I did like Logan a lot, actually. But
I was surprised. I didn't like Jess. I didn't like Dean, or the combination that I almost said of both of them, Gene. I didn't like either of them. I really didn't like Dean. Like, and this was before like the whole, I'm going to cheat on my wife with Rory and like that crap.
Yeah,
I know.
There's a podcast that I'll shout out called the Gilmore Guys, and they've actually interviewed throughout their podcast. Actually interviewed most of the cast of Gilmore Girls. Mm-hmm. They had a team for it with Deaning. Tammy's making a note to go listen to them.
Yes, I am. How did you do that?
But they call it Deaning. So like in the very beginning, when Dean was first introduced, he was a good boyfriend and he could have been rootable. But then when Jess came on, Jess was supposed to be the smart one, even though in season 1, Dean made a lot of like literary references. But they're like, okay, we have to make Dean dumber so that Jess is smart in comparison. And they took the character and they like tanked him. And the opposite of that would be Zacking, like Lane's boyfriend, Zach, because he wasn't intended to be her boyfriend until Adam Brody had to leave the show to go be on the OC. So then they had to like, oh crap, this guy was kind of just a dumb meathead. We have to slowly make him more relatable. And so that by the end, you actually kind of like Zach.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
I didn't like Zach until the only parts that I did like Zach was when in the final season, he was working at the diner on Lane's behalf while she was on maternity leave. That was like the only thing that was like, oh, there's actually something with this character. Everything else, like when he's introduced, he's just like that dumb band member. And then as the love interest, I'm like, no, you're just making him a love interest because you already have the actor and he's there. That's the only reason you're doing this.
I like Zach when he was like started to connect with Mrs. Kim. Like when he was writing a song and they were going through it together, it's like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I like Zach and Mrs. Kim's moments much better than Zach and Lane. Like when Zach first comes to the house and wants to see the Lane baby pictures that his Lane's mom wants to show him,
Mhm.
I'm like, there you go. That's the only thing I like about you so far.
So Matt, what is one of your favorite moments?
One of my I noticed with my moments, a lot of them have to deal with the same character. My favorite character in the show, Brian, Tammy, take a guess. Who do you think is my favorite character?
I don't know. Um,
What?
Luke.
He's up there. He's probably my number two, but my number
Okay.
one is Richard. I love Richard
Yeah.
so
I mean,
much.
there's so many. How do you choose?
He's great. So here's a top moment that I'm going to include. Maybe if I had like a top three, this would probably be like number three. I love the moment so I don't like Rory. I know that this is an unpopular opinion for anyone who likes Gilmore Girls. I don't like Lorelai, and I don't like Rory. I don't like either of the Gilmore Girls.
Why are you
Like,
even doing this podcast?
I'm not a huge fan of them either, really.
What?
everyone freaking worships Rory, and guess what? You see how it ruined her for her adult life.
Yeah.
She's trying to figure out, like, oh, who do I have to be? Because she's got all this expectation of her mom wants her to not follow in the same path as her, but also doesn't want her to, like, follow the same path as her parents. And then her grandparents are like, we want you to be the substitute Lorelai, the one that you should have been. And that, like, I just don't. And everyone's just like, oh, not Rory. She's too good for him. He's not good enough for Rory, and all this stuff. And they're worshiping. I'm like, have you met Rory? There's a lot of bad people out there that are just as good as Rory is. So she is not as good as Logan to me. Logan, like, first of all,
I'm gonna have to disagree with.
I liked Logan a lot more than I thought I would, but I will say Logan was bad for Rory because it kind of was a catalyst for a lot of the self-destruction, but Rory was good for Logan. But anyway, going back to the moment, I like once Rory's life was falling apart, or maybe it's not falling apart, but she like got in trouble for stealing the boat and she had to live with the grandparents. And then she starts being in the DAR with her grandma, and then her and like she puts on that DAR event. And at the very end of the episode, Richard sees her on stage and sees her falling down the life of being like Emily, and the look on his face of like, I was wrong. I did not support Lorelai. Lorelai was right. I was wrong about this. We should have kept her in college. Like the realization as he's watching her and like, this isn't what she's meant for. I thought that was wonderful. And it just is a testament to Edward Herrmann, his acting, how great he does.
Yeah.
And so that moment like resonated for me. I loved it. That's a weird moment. I feel like now that I'm saying it out loud,
No,
but I
that's
really
cool.
liked it.
I have another moment from that same episode we'll get to later. Tammy, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I wanted to comment on both of your moments.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, that whole episode is fantastic. I love that. And I like that realization when he's like, oh, Lorelai was right. Like, what have we done? Moment. I love the sledgehammer moment.
Yeah.
I listened to I listened to Scott Patterson's podcast where he recaps the show.
I listened to that one too, yeah.
And so he's also talked about the Dean thing, how they had been pulling down. That's a very good, and he said that was his favorite episode too, of getting to the sledgehammer. I don't know if I have one specific. I just love the show so much. I wrote down a lot of things. The breakup, the Rory Dean breakup, that was an epic episode.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I'll say epic, but that was
that's one of those like benchmark episodes. They shoot Gilmore's, don't they? Where it's where they're at the dance marathon.
Yeah. And also, I loved it. Yeah, so that was a fun one to watch just anyway, and the costumes and stuff.
That's a good episode for balancing the humor of the townies with the seriousness of the relationship.
Yeah. Yes, the town. I mean, the town is like a character itself. So
yeah, for sure.
And a lot of really good Lorelai Rory moment when they're dancing on the floor after that happens and them together. That's a nice moment.
Yeah, and she just comes and is like collapses into mom's arms. A good one. I don't like how she treated Dean though. You're right. She's not perfect. You're right. I just like her.
Or her boyfriend Paul in the revival, who she cheated on several times because she kept forgetting he existed.
I loved the revival except for that part. I mean, well, there was a few other parts, but that part was.
See, the revival I thought had a great ending for Emily, an okay ending for Lorelai, and a terrible ending for Rory.
Well, I have a trivia fact about the ending that, well, you probably know.
Oh
Brian,
yes,
You know,
Brian knows. Well, I know that Brian likes behind
I
the scenes stuff.
well, I told this to Matt actually, but why don't we
Oh, right.
save that for our listeners
Okay.
for trivia?
Yes. Okay.
All right, so hang on real quick. Let's rewind here because Tammy, you also said that you had some things to say about like the Richard at the DAR that moment too. Did you hit on what you wanted to say about that?
I mean, I think so. I think I just agree with you that it was a fun moment to be like, oh, Lorelai was right. Oh, what have we done? Oh, I love my wife Emily, but I don't want my granddaughter to be her, you know.
Yeah,
And also in that episode when he yelled at what's his name?
Mitchum.
Logan's dad. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was great too.
Is that the moment you like, Brian?
No,
Because
actually,
I do
I'll
like
just,
that moment.
I'll just say I like the other moment where Emily is getting after Logan's
Yes,
mom
I
and
love
says like
that.
you were like the 2-bit hick from whatever, and you got him, and your weight goes up and down every 30 minutes, 30 pounds because you know that he's still cheating on you, and it's like destroys her. And
Yeah,
she does it while smiling and leaning in so no one knows what's happening.
classic.
Yeah, that was a great Emily moment.
Yeah.
Now, I said my number one character is Richard. My number two is Luke. My number three is Emily. I did not, going into this, expect to like those parents as much, especially because in real life, Emily especially would be super annoying. I feel for Lorelai because it would be hard to deal with someone who is that critical growing up and seeing her as a person. I don't like people that are that critical. But the way she, and I'm sorry, I just completely blanked on the actress's name, but the
Ellie
way
Bishop.
that, thank you. The way that she acts, like there's such a veteran presence when she comes into things that you can't help but to be endeared to her, and especially in the vulnerable moments that I have another moment that I'll get to in just a little bit that has to do with Emily. That's a vulnerable moment, and those are some of my favorite of the whole series of seeing Emily be vulnerable. I love it.
That's one of the reasons that I don't like Lorelai is the show wants us to believe that we're completely on Lorelai's side, and Emily was just so controlling, and she had to get away, and she's so brave and everything. Which, yeah, there's the elements to that story, and there are times when Emily and Richard can be controlling. But the more we see it, a lot of times Lorelai has that set in stone as like my parents could never do anything good, and a lot of times they are just trying to connect with them, maybe in their own way, but still, it's not like they're being so terrible. And she just has this narrative like, you agreed with my parents, you're dead to me now. And it's
Yeah.
I agree. I love, love, love Lorelai, but I think now that I've gotten older, I like I'm blinking on the word connected with different characters through
oh yeah,
I started watching it when I was 16 or 15, whenever it came on.
yeah.
So of course, like I was like, yes, my mom's just like Emily, like, and I connected that way. And now I'm like, okay, I can see how she's not right all the time, but I like the show because it has realistic relationships and realistic situations and things that yeah. Anyway, that's a
See,
different.
that's fair. It is rather realistic because there are
Yeah.
people that are that hurt and that broken that they don't give people who've hurt them the benefit of the doubt ever. And
Or
that's
the chance
that's
to
what
change. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, 100%. But I mean, when you're like, oh, I love Lorelai, I'm like, how many times, Brian? How many times over the last 2 months have I just texted you, Lorelai
Oh
sucks?
my gosh.
And
Well, I
my
love
response and my response is usually, okay, there are several moments. Which one are you at?
Oh my gosh.
And I've got like a laundry list of like, oh, go ahead, Tammy. What were you saying?
No, it's okay. I just I love Lauren Graham as an actress. I think that's probably why also. But
Oh yeah,
I think she's very funny.
Even though you know, Lauren Graham has been in 3 different shows where her character dates her kid's teacher.
Yeah,
Gilmore
that's
Girls,
true.
Parenthood, and Mighty Ducks.
Oh, I haven't seen Mighty Ducks yet, but Parenthood was also another one of my favorite shows. I love that show.
Parenthood was good and it outstayed its welcome because it's just like how much can happen with one family? Like This Is Us kind of had the same thing where it's like,
Yeah,
all
don't
right,
tell me.
We're not
I'm
talking
gonna
about
watch that someday, and I know it's over, so I don't want to hear that.
You haven't seen any of it.
No, I have not seen any because I have watched too many shows. I'm like, I can't start another one, and I know that one's gonna suck out all my time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, next week we're talking about This Is Us.
Are you
Yes.
really? Okay, I
Yeah.
won't listen.
Well, thank you.
Well,
We love to hear.
Listen to other ones. Actually, I just listened to the one you're talking about, Saved by the Bell, And you were saying how you thought you were going to go back and think it was a show that was, just for nostalgic reasons and that it was going to be bad. You know what I'm talking about? Do you remember talking about that? Yeah. And that's also another reason I like Gilmore Girls, because many shows that I do still watch are for those reasons. I go back and I'm like, oh, why did I like this? But Gilmore Girls I've seen so many times and I still laugh.
There's so many characters you can relate to, and even the goofiest characters, like even Kirk has moments sometimes you're like, I get that. Like when he's really nervous on his date with Lulu, it's like I think we've all been there at some point.
Or asking out Lorelai, that was so cute.
That's crazy.
In real life.
When you say characters to relate to, and the first character you bring up is Kirk, you're off. He's like the most unrelatable character.
Well, that's why you bring him up.
Brian, do you know Brian?
He's the hardest character to relate to. So if you can relate to Kirk, then obviously you can relate to all the other characters because they're way more relatable than Kirk. That's what I was going for.
Also, Brian's very quirky, so not quirky. Quirky.
He's quirky. That's the new phrase.
All right, I have several more moments in my list. Do you guys have a moment you want to jump to?
Tammy, go ahead.
I don't know. I don't have like one specific. I wrote graduations because I loved when she graduated from both Chilton and Yale. I cried. I think I cry every time.
And when Lorelai graduated from business school and her parents were there, was a good moment too.
Yes, that was.
Oh yeah, I had forgotten about that. That is a good moment because on my list I did have Rory's like valedictorian speech, and she gives a good speech, but it's like made perfect by the reaction of not only her grandparents and Lorelai, but also Luke and Jackson and Suki crying.
Yeah,
I love Luke's like, I'm crying. I'm blubbering. You're freaks.
You're freaks. I've seen it so many times that I can like picture in my mind their motions, like
and it's once again another shout out to Ed Herman, because when she's like praising her grandparents, because I think that's so great for her to say, like, my grandparents were a big part of this. They are very important. And to say that in front of Lorelai and in front of all these people who do know the Gilmores, just to be like, I wouldn't be here without them. They have been what they are. And like Ed Herman, like holding in tears as he's staring at her. I'm like, dude, you're an awesome actor.
Yeah.
I know, he's so great.
The only thing about that moment is, okay, other shows have done this too. I get a little bit taken out. How many people are in that graduating class? She spends a lot of her time talking specifically about Emily and Richard and Lorelai. It's like,
I know.
So everybody else, like, okay, I guess this girl likes her grandparents. Like, what does that have to do with me?
I was going to say that too. That part, there are moments that are, of course, not very realistic. Like, no one probably would give a speech like that.
Yeah.
For the sake of the show, it was very good.
And no one would give a speech like Paris, like, I didn't get into Harvard. I had sex, but I didn't get into Harvard.
I like Paris.
I am surprised at how much I liked her after the first season.
Yes. What's the guy's name, though, that sings at graduation? I forget his name. Ding dong, ding. Remember?
Brad Langford.
Brad.
Played by the great Adam Wiley. We could have used more Brad. Where was Brad in the revival? He could have been in the Chilton scenes. He would have done it.
Yes.
Oh, Brad.
Oh, so funny.
I love that he went away to be in an either off-Broadway or on-Broadway show. I don't remember what.
Yeah.
That he comes back.
Because that's what he did in real life. The actor was actually on Broadway.
Yeah.
That's really
he was
funny.
on Scott's podcast talking about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I forgot about Lorelai's graduation, so that you brought it up. That was a great moment too, but it was not great how Rory missed it. But I thought it was a great moment, like in their relationship.
Yeah.
Oh, my daughter's not perfect.
That Jess and Rory thing in New York would have been a great moment of connection if it wasn't her choosing her mom's graduation over it, or the other way around.
Yeah. And then she left the album there. I would have been so mad. Her present.
Speaking of presents, that's another thing. Like when they come back from Europe and they're like, we have to give presents to everyone in town. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? You guys are so annoying.
I did that when I went on a trip.
Not to everyone in town. You might have given presents to a lot of people.
Did I ever give
to literally everyone in my family? I think, Brian, do you have a keychain?
Probably. I was going to ask, did I ever get a gift from you?
Yes, I think when I came back from Saipan, I had a present for every one of my aunts and uncles and cousins. And siblings
that's
apparently.
too many. Okay, Tammy and I are from a big family. Her mom and my mom are one of 9 kids. That's too many of us to give gifts to everybody.
I know. I was a little crazy.
How long were you there? Because I know that you were there for quite a bit.
11 months the second time. I student taught there in college too.
Yeah. So So almost a year that you have a little bit of license to bring back something for everyone.
So it
Thank
was
you.
a year in the life of Tammy.
Yeah.
Nope.
The year in the same season, the whole year.
Before we get to another one of Brian's moments, this is I'm just going to shoehorn it in because I've been wanting to do this and I don't know if I'm going to be able to bring it up. So Scott Patterson, do you guys know who he is to me? He is a discount Nicolas Cage. I realize it's like third season in.
I was going to say it's the reverse.
He's got he had a rant that when he was in the middle of the rant, I'm like, that's what it is. He has Nicolas Cage energy. He's like right there, and he does. He looks a lot like him. He is diet Nicolas Cage.
I don't know if I've seen enough of Nicolas Cage movies to compare them, but he does kind of look like him.
I would be more offended, except like Scott Patterson was great as Luke, but what else? I mean, he's been in some other stuff, but he's not one of those actors you can think, oh, Scott Patterson would be great in that role. I think he's just Luke to me.
Yeah, and he's kind of annoying on his podcast as a real human.
Yeah.
To be fair, I also wouldn't think like, oh, Nicolas Cage would be great in that role. He would just be Nicolas Cage in that role, and sometimes that's a great thing, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, go ahead.
All right, I got a bunch. Do you want a serious one or a funny one?
Let's do funny. Last one was serious.
Okay. Just a little one when Kirk keeps crashing the staff meetings at the hotel. It's like, what are you doing here? Staff meeting. But you don't work here. Well, I thought maybe I could work in a hotel someday. This would be a great experience. And he does the same thing later in the episode with Suki in the kitchen. Like, I thought I might want to work in a kitchen someday. This might be a good experience. He's like, it starts crashing jobs, which is a great lead up to that eventual moment where he's like, yeah, I have like $250,000 to buy the house because I work my whole life and I don't spend anything.
I hated that. That annoyed me so much.
Why? It's so funny. I thought it was funny.
I'm not like a Kirk fan. Like, he's quirky, but I just keep thinking like how annoying he would be if I knew someone like that in real life. However, I will say there were two Kirk moments that I enjoyed, and they were in the same season. And one of them was like when he realizes he hid the Easter eggs and couldn't remember where like all the Easter eggs were, and like needed help to find them. That was a good episode. But then like a couple episodes before that was the big episode about the Stars Hollow. What is that? Like the Living Pictures show.
Oh yeah, when he was Jesus.
When he was
classic.
Jesus.
Yes.
I enjoyed Kirk in that episode and how much he adopted like the Jesus person and how distrustful he was as the actor who played Judas.
Yeah,
that was great.
The troubadour, right? He was the town troubadour.
No, it was some random guy. No, it was the troubadour. You're right.
No, it was. Don't test me, man. It was the town
She's
troubadour.
seen this show Infinity, so
she is okay. So Matt has Back to the Future. I have the Muppets. Tammy has Gilmore Girls.
Yes. Wait, what is Matt?
Back to the Future.
Oh yes, classics. But that's not a show. Is it a show that I don't know about?
Well, there was an animated series in the 90s, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, okay. I just want to say, when we're talking about Kirk, it's so funny that he had a different job every single episode. I mean, that's pretty creative on the writer's part, I think. Like the entire series, he had a different job every single episode.
Well, it wasn't every single episode because he's not in every episode.
Okay, well, every episode he was in, I'm pretty sure he had a different job.
Because he's not shown working every single time. It's a lot of them, though. On the Gilmore Guys podcast, at one point they track all of his jobs.
Okay, fine. I was wrong on one. Okay.
So I'm going to bring up something that is, I think, very polarizing, but I think could have been made an A+ slam dunk moment. But I think I can see why people are annoyed at it, which is the Stars Hollow musical in the revival.
Yes.
Because it takes up like 20 minutes of the episode. But
I feel like it was just a filler.
And part of it was, this was also like the casting call. Amy Sherman-Palladino, she's not only bringing back all the Gilmore's characters, she's also shoehorning in actors from Bunheads, which is her other show that she did, and so giving them their cameo moments. Yeah. And the daughter from Parenthood, it's this whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that one would have been perfect. And I think go back to that season, I think it's season 5, when they have the museum, and it's like you see all the mannequins, and they're like, "Well, this is Stars Hollow. This is so great." And it's just such a cheesy production, but that was a really funny moment because we saw like a minute of it. We didn't dwell on it too long. Yeah. If we shortened the musical down to like maybe you see maybe a one song, or maybe not even a full song, maybe like half a song. You keep the joke going where Lorelai's the only one who notices that it's crazy, where everyone else loves it. And it needs to not be random people. It needs to be like Kirk doing these random things, or with like Taylor and Jackson, and he had to have Miss Patty playing piano on it. It's just like, if it was that and shorter, it could be an A+ stars hollow quirky moment.
Yeah, I thought actually at first, because of the makeup and the hairstyling, that it was Kirk as the man in that, and then like realized, oh no, this is a different actor. But I mean, it would have made sense. It was almost like, sure, and now it makes sense that they had cameos from her other stuff. But I was just like, why is Kirk not doing this? This is a total Kirk. If Kirk can play Tevye in an elementary school production of Fiddler on the Roof, he can definitely he can do this.
What's the line he sings? Da, 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 da. I can picture it in my head, but I can't.
Yeah.
You love me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. I loved the revival mostly, but that was one part that was stupid.
I low key though, I did love like the song that they added at the end that was more emotional, that everyone else hated but Lorelai loved. That was a really well crafted musical song. Like that feels like it was pulled right out of a musical, and someone would use like that, because it just, I'm sure it was written really well.
Yeah.
Sorry. I forget her name off the top of my head, but she's a Broadway actress.
Sutton Foster, right?
Yes. Yeah, she's a Broadway actress. That's the one who sang that song, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. I like
and I meant the composing of the music as well, too.
Yeah.
It just felt like it was
I know.
composed.
Yes.
And Tammy knows. She's got it.
I'm just saying I know what you meant. It was a good song, but I think it was also performed well.
True.
And when we're talking about the great revival moments, there's also the phone call with Lorelai and Emily when she's out in the wilderness, and she finally like, it says like, this is my favorite moment of Dad when he bought me the pretzel. And you see that's like pent up emotion of like 50 years worth of them having tension, and it's almost like released right there.
She's not 50. Well, I guess she would have been 50 of the revival. That was one of my all-time favorite moments too. It was so like, she wasn't able to say that when he was there and like show him love, and now he's gone. And which, how sad that he wasn't able to be there for them.
And he was one of the first people who said, "Yeah, I'll come back for a revival."
Yeah.
So what
took so long.
So I'm wondering, what would it have been like if he didn't die in real life and they would have had him in there? Like, I don't think Emily's story would have been nearly as satisfying if Richard had been there, honestly.
Yeah,
no, I think there would have been a lot more for them. I think it would have been like retired, and what did they do with retirement? Like a similar arc of what do I do now? But instead of it losing a husband, it's now that what I've built is no longer needed.
But they already did that when he retired in the first few seasons, and he drove Emily crazy.
They came back.
Yeah.
But he wasn't ready to retire.
You get older too. Yeah, he wasn't ready. You get older, and at a certain point, you stop wanting to do that.
That's true. Yeah. True.
I do love. I really love to see like moments where Lorelai lets her parents in, or vice versa. Like one of my top moments that I absolutely love, if we're doing a top 3, this is probably on it, would be in the first season when the parents come for Rory's birthday party at the house. And then so Lorelai's telling her some stuff and showing her pictures and everything, and like realizes that Rory broke like a leg or something like that. Anyway, they sit in the car afterwards, and Emily just sits there for a second and says, I don't know my daughter at all, or I don't know my granddaughter. Like just this revelation that there's so much that I've missed. And it's like, oh, it kind of hurts to hear that.
I think kind of like the emotional sequel to that would be Lorelai's bachelor party, where they actually invite Emily comes and doesn't tell her that she wants to have a bachelor party. No, it's Emily's for their Emily and Richard's revival, and and then Lorelai renewal, and then Lorelai gets like Suki and Miss Patty and Babette and everybody. They end up having this party with Emily at that point as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was just going to say something and then I lost my train on the same subject. On Emily, because this is a random one, but after the episode of Lorelai's at the auction and she wants to go on a date with that guy. Remember that? Yes. And she's trying to call her mom to get the date, and then she broke the date because he's boring, and then it like ruins her whole life because she doesn't get the first spot at tea or whatever it is, the first. So they like make up at the end, and Lorelai's like, if you really want me to, I'd go on the date. And she's probably thinking that Emily's gonna be like, no, you don't have to. And then she's like, yep, okay, so tell me how the date goes. Yeah. I love that. And I think like it's my mom. So I can relate to that. I like the show because I can relate to all the characters.
Speaking of Tammy's mom, so like
This is a great segue already.
She's great.
No, she is great. So as you might have guessed, I've known Tammy's mom my whole life because family.
That would do it.
I got a happy birthday text from Tammy's mom that was like an entire paragraph. But that's the only way that Tammy's mom talks or texts. And at some point in it, she said saying, "Oh, the weather here hasn't been super great," and blah blah. It's like, how do we end up on the weather?
Because that's how her brain works. But my mom and I would fit in great in Gilmore Girls. We talk so fast, and we can understand each. We would talk it. Look at these are her kids. Well, you probably can't see.
I
No,
can't
can't
see it.
see.
It's glowing.
All I see is a bright light. But I know what you can see because
I know Matt can't see it. Okay, hold on. Let's let it focus for a minute.
I don't know why I'm like leaning forward, like I'm going to be able to see it better.
Okay,
I'm seeing this
you can
almost like
imagine.
white screen
Like
in front of me.
The best about my mom, though, she'll never listen to this, is that she doesn't know what a podcast is that she has a flip phone where you have to punch the numbers 3 times to get the.
Oh my god!
Oh yeah, I've gotten really good at deciphering her mega long messages that are like, what?
My aunt is the same way. My aunt will send these like crazy long messages that sound like broken English, and you're just like, "What are you saying?" Hope you cookie is good. Hope I what?
My dad does that because
what?
he uses voice text, and it's never. And I try to like say what, and he's like, "I just said it." I'm like, "No, read what you wrote. It's not."
I know this is not how you talk, so you got to realize.
He's like, okay, whatever.
It's actually a really funny thing when you get Tammy's dad and my dad together because I remember it was a couple years ago. Me and Tammy, we had an uncle who died, and it was like after the review, a bunch of us went out for pizza afterwards, and they were the 2 of them were talking about pizza toppings, and I was just thinking, there's like 2 cranky old men talking about pizza. I was like, this is real life Statler and Waldorf.
Your dad's not an old man, and he's not cranky though. Your dad is grumpy old man.
Okay, maybe he's not cranky, but he's getting up there.
Yes, they are fun together. And
my dad's not going to listen to this either.
And the entire restaurant hears them.
Yes.
So speaking of old men,
Sorry, see, I told you I go on bunny trip.
No, I mean that's fun. But Richard in another episode, so he has a heart attack, goes to the hospital. Yeah. The episode after that is really good. I like just pretty much everything that happens in that episode of watching how they process grief. And like Emily has a couple different ways that she does and has a couple stages. But I really enjoyed right at the end when Lorelai's like, why are you so about like the will and all these logistics and just like, this is what I can do. And like, she goes to this rant of like, this is what your father would want. This is how I can help. And like, you see, she was feeling powerless and helpless in all of this. And so the way that she didn't feel helpless was to do what Emily does best and have all these things organized. So that when she goes, so when she sits down with him, once she can finally go in, she tells him, because he's also a very organized type person too. And so it was a love language of her to be able to say, this is how I love you. Look at what I did. And this is taken care of. This is taken care of. So you don't have to worry about any of this. And it's just like that was another very real moment of it wasn't some sappy thing, but it became sappy because you read in the subtext of it.
You're talking about the season 1 heart attack?
No, I'm talking about later.
I think that was season 1 and the
he
later
has 2 of them. He has one in like season 1 and one in like season 6.
When Rory's in
college. I'm talking about season 6 when he was teaching and he collapsed in front of Rory.
Oh, okay, yes, that one, yeah.
I thought that was the one when she was like, I agree with you, by the way, but she's like, I've been his wife for 40 years. I don't know what else to.
I think that was in the revival after he died.
Oh. Okay.
No, she does that. She talks about that in that too.
Oh, that's right. So many times they all mix together.
I've seen it recently. Brian, Tammy, and I would know what we're talking.
Yes.
Go watch your Muppet show or whatever.
But you've seen them all, Brian.
I have. While we're on the subject of Richard's heart attack, there's also another great moment in the first one, and back in season 1, where Emily has the "I demand to go first" speech.
That's
right.
Emily is like, I can't handle losing you, so I demand to go first.
Yes, that's what I was. Yes, getting it. I thought I've been your wife for this long was in the same episode.
No. There are three different things we're talking about that happen.
Sure.
Richard has a lot of heart attacks.
Yes, but I tell Billy that all the time. He's not allowed to die first.
And if you die first, I'll kill you.
Yes. That's a good episode. And how the first season heart attack when Luke takes care of or comes to help and take care of Lorelai.
Yeah. And that's the first time that Emily sees it. Because like everybody sees Luke and Lorelai before they see it, including Emily.
Yes.
Yeah.
That leads me to one of my favorite moments.
Go for it.
When they finally kiss in season 4.
Yep, that's
when
how
they're opening the inn. And everyone's like, oh, if it was a sitcom, you'd get the clapping audience.
Yeah.
And then Kirk runs through the middle of them naked. I mean, that's just that space doesn't look like he agrees.
You know what I was thinking when they kissed?
What?
Luke, he can do so much better.
No.
No, he can see her face, remember?
She has flaws too, but she also has strengths.
True, but her flaws are super annoying.
Like what? What is one?
I'm gonna go backpack. I'm gonna go hike and backpack on my own because I am a little unsure about myself. So I'm gonna be gone for a couple weeks.
Well, that was way later.
What? Okay, how about, hey, I know you're dating someone else and you want to try to make this work. Don't ask her to marry you. I know that I have no right to ask you to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm a terrible person.
That was his dream. That was not real life, right?
No, that was real.
What'd you say, Brian? You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that was in real life.
Yeah, that was how one of the seasons ended. Is it ended with her line? She goes to him and it's just like, don't marry
Look it up, and then the next season starts with that. It was a dream.
No, the dream starts the next season where she dreams that she's pregnant with his twins.
No, that's way before they're together. I just watched that episode. Yes, it is. Okay.
He's talking about when he was with Nicole.
Yes. And they got married.
Because he goes back, because Luke comes back and says, like, he gives her a rant, like, who are you to tell me that I can't get married? That involves me and her.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, you're talking about something. Okay, I'm talking about two different things. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Because sorry. See, they all meld together in my brain. Because she was jealous, but she didn't know it because she didn't know that she loved him yet at that point, right? So she's saying, "Don't marry her," right?
Yeah. And you can't just ask someone, "Don't marry her," but also to not be like, "I'm going to put myself out there."
I agree. Yeah. You're right.
Terrible.
Valid point. There was a dream though where he didn't. What was the dream? You know what I'm talking about?
There was some moment
that she. I thought it was about marriage.
Yeah, they were married, and she came down in the kitchen. Or no, he was in the kitchen with her, and they're preparing.
No,
it was
pick the rest.
Fine. Hey, you know what?
That is a dream too.
You know what wasn't a dream? That weird moment in the fall episode of Year in the Life when the Life and Death Brigade come up again, and there's the talking crow.
Yes.
And then she goes in the. I'm
awesome.
Waiting for it to be a dream, and then it's not. It's real.
Cool. Well, I thought that was cool, but I like weird stuff like that.
I did like that series. I did like that that series of events there. I think the Beatles song helped it.
Yeah, Beatles help everything. So there's that. But
I didn't like that cover. The song's fine, but I didn't like the cover of it.
Yeah,
I haven't watched. I think I only watched A Year in the Life twice through, so I'm not as well versed with the original.
Hey, does anyone have a Logan moment on their list? Because I want to talk about Logan.
I have a Life and Death Brigade on my list.
I have a Logan moment. It's more of a Richard moment. It's after Logan does that whole stunt where he and Colin and Finn interrupt the class and say, "I love you, no, I love you," and all that.
Yeah.
And then really Richard comes up to him and Logan, my boy, we're gonna have the wedding announcements and everything. And then him and Rory were in on that whole thing. I love that.
Yeah,
that was really great.
He's
I agree.
What?
Loved it.
I like the Life and Death Brigade. I mean, it's pretty pretentious, but I just thought it was so fun how they would I want to go dress up in an old timey costume and spend a weekend in the woods and do weird things. So unique. I don't know.
But the whole thing about you can't say words with the letter E in it was so dumb and pretentious.
Yes, I agree. That would be really hard.
It is. But I do see the merit of that arc, especially because Angie, my wife, pointed it out that she was saying, like, you can see this noticeable difference with Rory of, like, the catalyst for all the things that happened later in her life all come down to that weekend and her jumping off that billboard with Logan and taking that risk and doing something that she had never done before without having planned it out, of just being in the moment and that spontaneity. Like, that unlocked something for her that, for worse or better, that she was never the same after.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
totally.
true. Yeah.
Also, we're talking about Richard in college. Who loves their college more, Richard with Yale or Andy Bernard with Cornell?
Andy.
Because
from The Office.
Oh my gosh.
No, listen. Okay.
No, listen. I can explain.
No, listen. I love The Office, but we just finished watching Friends all the way through because I've seen it 800 times and Billy has never seen it, and so now we're on to The Office, but I haven't seen it all the way through. So I love The Office. I just haven't seen it every episode.
Here's the thing with Richard. Richard has a personality outside of being a Yale alum, even though he loves Yale. Andy, for the longest time, didn't know who he was outside of, I graduated from Cornell.
Yeah, that's true.
So he loves it more because his identity is staked in it versus Richard.
Okay. So what else? You said you want to talk about Logan. What else you got about Logan?
So I actually really loved Logan. I expected to hate him because he's a type of character of being like pretentious and spoiled and entitled. That's a sort of character that I wouldn't like. And yet they made him so stinking likable. You really appreciated him, and the way that he, like, the moment that I realized I really liked Logan was when Paris crashes and burns as the editor, and they have to throw out that one copy of the Yale paper before, or else it would be the only time that it doesn't go out. So, like, he's pulling strings and he's helping out and he's working with them because it's, he's not someone that cares about things like that. But he cares about Rory. And so it was cool to see the lengths that he would go when he decided he wanted to care about things.
In the end, he has that great line, "That's the way we do it at the Daily News."
Yeah, I can picture
the fist pump.
And then Paris comes out of her little, like, whatever cave thing she made, and
she's like, "We did it! Like, you did nothing."
Also about that was the moment where he, like, won Rory back, right? Because that was after he, like, cheated on her with the bridesmaids or whatever.
I think so.
So he was trying to win her back, and then after he did that, like, she saw, like, okay, he's actually decent, like, he's proven himself again. So, like, okay. I think so.
This leads me to, I have a whole episode, which I think is a highlight episode, and that will lead into a little bit of Suki Jackson comments I have.
Okay. I'm going to talk about them.
Yeah, which is the Thanksgiving episode of a deep fried Korean Thanksgiving.
Love that one.
I love that one because it's like they're moving through the different stages of their friend groups. They have, the regular townies at Luke. They have Suki and Jackson, which are part of the town, but normally they're kind of more separate. The only one they didn't have like anything at the inn with Michelle. And then they have, Lane and Mrs. Kim and all that. And then they have Richard and Emily, which I thought was a great, and every one of those things. In the Lane and Mrs. Kim stuff, you have Dave Rogalski playing all night with the Bible Kiss Bible scene. And then with Suki and Jackson, you have the deep frying everything. And did you catch Badger from Breaking Bad in that scene?
I don't remember. I'm still trying to replace the episode because, like, it's like one of those that's ringing a bell at the back of my head. But
it's about all the Thanksgivings. They go from one to one and the next to the next.
Yeah, and that sounds familiar. I just can't picture too much of what happened in that episode.
All right.
I don't know who that is, whoever you just said, because I haven't seen that show either. I know.
Oh, Breaking Bad. It's
on my list. Oh.
Do you have a list? I have a list.
Of course. There's so many I haven't seen.
No. But there's also the one that had Cat Kirk. Kirk had Cat Kirk.
Yes. That was the best.
But I love Suki and Jackson because they're established right away in the beginning as they're the couple that gets together very on, and they're the stable couple. A lot of shows will have a stable couple. True. Like Scrubs had Turk and Carla. They were together, while JD and Elliot date other people. this just Gilmore Girls had Luke, Suki, and Jackson. Think about it, like Lorelai, Rory, even Richard and Emily split up for a while. They were the only solid rock couple throughout the whole series.
Yeah,
it's true. They were really. I love their relationship. Mm-hmm. And Melissa St. James. I mixed their two names up. St. James, who's played by Melissa McCarthy, obviously is an epic actress. So it's fun to see her before she was like super famous.
I really like how they handled pregnancy and kids with these two, because a lot of shows will be like, oh, like Friends, we're looking at you. Oh, I have a kid, but they don't really factor into my everyday life. Like, yes, they do. But with Jackson and Suki, you saw them outside of their houses in spots where it would make sense that they wouldn't have their kids. And then in times when it would make sense for them to have their kids, you would see them or at least hear them interacting with the kids or stuff like that. So like they did it in a very realistic way that they didn't have to have the kids all the time, but that you saw them removed from them, but it was still an ever-present part of their life that they are parents.
Right.
And that is 100% how it is.
It wasn't like, where's their kids? Like, no one knows where Ben Geller is. Like, or what's his name? Yeah, you know,
But what I don't like about Suki and Jackson, the only complaint is the retcon they did later on. So Melissa McCarthy got pregnant in real life in one of the later seasons, and that's when Suki and Jackson got pregnant with their third kid. And then they wrote themselves in the corner because earlier they were like, yeah, Jackson got a vasectomy. But then they're like, oh, no, he didn't get one. And he didn't. And they had to make up this whole thing where he lied and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, that kind of just ruins the character of Jackson a little bit, because like that's a crappy thing to do, to not tell your wife that that's not happened, you know?
I think they handled it the best that they could. I don't feel like I was like, oh, that's bad. I think that was a semi-humorous, depending on your level of humor. I wasn't like, oh, that's so funny, but I'm like, I could see people finding this quirky and
and again, that's probably happened in real life more than once. So.
Oh, I'm sure. Jackson is also one of my favorites. I love Jackson.
Yeah, he's the best.
Jackson's really great. I like that early on, that you're absolutely right, of like putting them together and like realizing that in that first season. And they had some really great scenes right away. And I'm sure that they were planning on like putting that couple together from the get-go, because it made sense, you know.
They're so cute.
They had that first date episode with Rune was very early on.
Yes, Rune. She's so tall.
Gosh, Rune. Man,
I keep
what a
thinking
terrible
we're talking
character.
about all these moments that I want to mention, but there's just too many.
Another thing I really have to mention is it's a series of things. It's just something that happens often. All of Luke's rants, especially when they're directed at Taylor. I'm always in for a good Luke rant. I looked up on YouTube. I looked at some of the best Gilmore Girls moments, and one of them was just a whole video compilation of Luke's rants.
It's the best. Those are pretty good. Speaking of looking things up, though, I looked up that scene I was talking about on Reddit, and it says Lorelai having a dream about being pregnant with Luke's twins as the beginning of the season, and then Luke's dream about Lorelai telling him not to get engaged to Nicole is the end of the season. See, Reddit's got to be right?
Have you been on Reddit for more than 5 minutes?
No, I haven't. That's just what popped up. I'm gonna find it, and I'm gonna send it to you after this.
You know, one of when we were in college, they always used to say you can't use Wikipedia as a source, and then you're using Reddit.
Oh, it's the first thing that popped up. Okay.
If that was a dream, the fact that she's told them that in a dream, they did not do a good job of portraying that, because they cut to black after that. She said, don't get engaged, and then written by Amy, whatever.
Because it was a cliffhanger, and then I think they opened the next season with him realizing it was a dream, because he wanted her to tell him not to get engaged.
That is terrible. That is terrible writing. If that's true, that is really stupid writing.
I'm going to look it up when we're done, because we already talked about it. But I have a couple like really little ones.
Cool.
Sleeping with the cucumbers with Jackson.
Yes, that's a good one.
That was hilarious. Like, who would do these things? And then pickle train. Remember that one? When they're trying to recap how the pickle train fell and the whole town derailed. Pickle.
Like that was the recycled storyline. They did, the whole town smells like eggs, and the whole town smells like pickles.
That's true, yeah. But I love their little quippy way they talk to each other sometimes, and they're like,
I have a couple of things. Just two of the main characters we haven't really talked about yet. First would be Lane. Lane was I always loved Lane's storyline, and Matt, I don't know if you know this. So like, Lane was based on a real person. Her name's Helen
really?
Pye, who was like the music person, and she's actually good friends in real life with Amy Sherman Palladino.
And her name is
her name is an anagram for Hep Alien, which is Lane's band's name.
Sorry.
Oh, nice.
And
I know lots of trivia.
And her husband in real life is named Dave Rogalski. So Dave and Lane were supposed to be a couple. Supposed to be Lane and Dave in real life, and Lane and Dave in the show. And then Adam Brody went and got cast on the OC, and they're like, okay, I guess we lost another one. So because they had this on the Gilmore Guys podcast, they called it like the WB stable of hot boys with Jared Padalecki, Chad Michael Murray, Adam Brody, Milo Ventimiglia, Matt Zuckery.
But he didn't leave. Like the show ended with Logan, though, right?
Yeah,
he didn't leave.
No, not all of them left. But so that's why it was just suddenly abrupt. They spent a whole season of Dave, and then Dave's gone. And then they had to okay, I guess Zach's next, and then we'll grab Sebastian Bach from Skid Row and to make him come in. I love Gil though. Yeah,
Gil's pretty funny. But that's true. They did all leave for other WB shows.
Yeah.
Good for Jared Padalecki because he got on one that lasted 20 years?
15,
And Chad Michael Murray too. His was 9. That's one of my other favorite shows.
Yeah, Gilmore Girls ended and came back for a revival, and he was still on the show that he left Gilmore Girls for.
I haven't watched that either, so don't tell me.
A lot of people die.
Oh, okay.
But then they come back.
That kind of show.
No, if you're one of the family, you get to come back. If you're one of the brothers, you get to come back. Everyone else gets to die for real.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Is the other main character you didn't talk about Christopher?
No, it was Michelle, actually.
Oh, yes. Well, I love Michelle.
I like Michelle, but I think he's best in little doses. Yes. I think he's like the Creed of Gilmore Girls. Like his favorite moment is like that line of his famous line, "People are particularly stupid today. I can't talk to any more of them today."
He has so many famous lines, but yeah, that's a good one.
And then obviously in the revival, he was bumped up a lot because a lot of his scenes would have been Suki scenes, but Suki was off being a movie star.
True, yeah. Yep. Michelle's a classic. And Taylor in small doses as well, too, because all of those quirky characters are so fun to watch.
Yeah.
The Taylor moment I really liked is when he did not get renominated for Town Selectman. Oh, yeah. Christopher won. Or not Christopher. Jackson won.
Yeah.
And she sees him
spraying in the whipped cream.
Yep.
Yeah. Like he felt bad, but I mean at the same time, don't suck so much then.
I know.
I mean, obviously you would have guessed, but I've heard some interviews with the actor. And it's like he's totally not like that. He's not like uptight. He seems really chill, which is weird to see them out of character like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's so good at it, probably. Because it's totally different. I'm sure Kirk is not like a crazy person.
Yeah. Michelle, going back to Michelle, he grew on me over the seasons because, I've said this before, Brian, I hate entitled divas, and Michelle is 100% an entitled diva, but he did have enough humorous lines. They used him sparingly enough. They never really had storylines that went with Michelle apart from the revival, that it was just, he was a side character. He was there for the support.
He got an RV once.
A dog funeral. He got what?
He got an RV once.
Oh, yes, and a dog funeral.
And Viv was his mom.
And I liked when Suki came back in the revival, and Lorelai and Suki have this nice emotional thing. When he comes in, like, "You B-word, you took the good granola," and like he just chews her out.
Yeah, that pick up where they left off.
That's absolutely the relationship.
Yeah,
Matt doesn't swear on this podcast.
I don't. Yeah. I don't swear in real life either.
Yeah. Each be our own. I'm getting tired. To each your own.
Tammy, did you have anything to say about Chris? Did you have anything to say about Christopher?
Yes. Well, that's also a very controversial. Like, do we like him? Do we not like him? No.
I like him, but he's not good for Lorelai.
Yes. So my other epic moment was Richard and Emily's renewal when she purposely invites Christopher after her and Luke are together, and then she knows what she's doing, of course.
Yeah.
And then Lorelai leans into the picture and it's like, we're done. I mean, that episode was also classic because Rory and Logan are starting their relationship, and now this one's ending. Well, essentially, two are ending: Luke and Lorelai and Emily. There's just lots of good stuff.
There's also a little tiny Richard moment, and I have to call out the Gilmore Guys podcast because I never would have noticed this if they didn't bring it up. But in the beginning of that revival episode, at the beginning, Emily's going crazy in Emily mode and talking about the wedding planning, and she just mentions because Lorelai had rearranged a seating chart just for fun, and Emily's just like, oh yeah, blah blah blah, and I fired her. And when she says I fired her, Richard has this like proud, like funny moment, look on his face, like, oh, my wife loves to fire people. Like he's just like beaming with pride when she says that.
Yeah, that's another thing too about another quirky side thing is that she's a different maid in almost every episode.
Yeah, I believe that the maids never repeat until A Year in the Life when it's played by
Gypsy.
Yeah, by Gypsy of all people.
Who also is a good character. I'm like, there's so many. Babette, we didn't even talk about Babette. We're doing two episodes.
So I said Scott Patterson is a diet Nick Cage. Babette's actress is a grown-up female Josh Gad.
Oh, yes, I can
that
see that.
same hoarse voice and that same like New York way of talking.
Yeah.
Or New England way of talking.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just so good. There's so many I could talk about all day.
The final thing that I liked is this show actually did do a really good job with its finale in terms of there was like, especially the shot, shot of not the Year of the Life finale, but the finale before it got picked up again.
I'm talking about the original. Go ahead. Sorry.
I liked the shot of showing, even though I'm against the Rory worship that happens for every single person in this deluded, brainwashed town, still for them to like all come together in the rain, and then the shot of like showing the entire town as they're cheering of like, you're gonna do something great, we believe in you, we love you, even though
That's really
spoiler
sweet.
alert, she doesn't do anything great because she's terrible.
She gets to go around with Barack Obama.
Yeah,
before he runs. So
yeah, I had no idea who that was when I watched the original.
It's also a thing that completely dates the podcast or dates the show.
That's true. That is a good moment. I don't know why I did like the ending, but I didn't like the last season as much because it was different writers, and so I feel like the whole Christopher Lorelai relationship was forced and not. It was just not good. So I do like in the reboot that they had the original. Well, that was mine. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, they never would have done the revival without Amy.
Yes. But I was going to say the ending. Is that your trivia question or whatever? How's that?
Oh, no.
Oh, I was like, I don't want to ruin anything. I don't know.
Should we move into trivia?
We can move into trivia. What was last week's trivia, Brian?
We did another one of those training shows where I watched What We Do in the Shadows and you watched One Day at a Time. Oh, I remember that.
That's right.
I've never seen either of those or heard of either of those.
They're both good. So One Day at a Time, one of the stars of that show is Rita Moreno, who plays the grandmother. And I said there's a TV show where she was on for one episode as a guest star, and she's the only guest star on that show to ever win an Emmy for their performance. That was The Muppet Show. She was a guest star. Season 1 of The Muppet Show. She had a very famous scene where she sang Fever with Animal. And that episode in 1976 is the only episode where the guest star won an Emmy.
Wow.
You know, at the outset of this episode, I had said that we'd have 20% more Muppets references, and we're not living up to that hype right now. I forgot about this trivia.
Oh, that's funny.
So the very last moment of the revival of A Year in the Life, the last words spoken, have some significance, especially to Amy Sherman Palladino, the creator of the show, and her plans for the series. And question is, why is that? Final thoughts. Anything else that we never mentioned April?
Oh yeah, I didn't like that. Wasn't that the last season too? No,
the last 2 seasons. I liked April as a character. I think she gets too much hate. That's all I got. Any other questions before we wrap this up?
If you ask Angie, she'll tell you that like April was the worst thing that this show did was introducing her.
No. Does she know that Dean was on this show?
Does she not like Dean?
Who should like Dean? No one likes Dean.
He was a
Dean
good
doesn't even like
boyfriend
Dean
until she started treating him like crap.
Yeah. Well, like, I don't know.
He went off the handles about things that he shouldn't have, even before like she started treating him like crap. He was to be fair, he was a kid. What teenage boy isn't insecure? I get it, but still, I don't like Dean. I never liked him.
That's epic. Although what teenage boy would really do that?
Logan can buy her a fleet.
That's true.
And Jess can probably fix
Money
it.
can't buy you love.
Yeah. It's true.
Well, should we make like Dean and wrap it up?
No. Oh my God. That's inappropriate. You should do what they do on Scott's podcast and ask me rapid fire.
All
Do
right.
you know them all?
Oh, I think I remember. Okay, rapid fire for both of you. How do you like your coffee?
Creamer. And about
Yeah.
3.5 cups a day, at least.
This is a very slow rapid fire. I'm sorry. I'm unprepared. Lots of creamer, lots of sugar, at least half.
All right. Team Dean, Jess, or Logan?
Logan.
Team all of them at different phases of her life. She needed them.
That's a cop out. What
No,
are the
it's
other
not.
questions?
Okay, Logan. Fine.
Jess.
And then Jess later in the reboot.
Jess always and forever.
Worst character.
Oh,
Kirk.
Zach. No, I like Zach. I don't know. They're all. Do you have a worst, Brian?
Kristen?
Ooh. Oh,
Tristan.
Tristan. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
We didn't even talk about Paris and all the Chilton people. Oh, we gotta do a second Gilmore Girls episode.
We could. We mentioned how we like
Yes.
Paris. Oh yeah, can you smell snow? Yes.
Yes, I'm from Northwest Wisconsin. Absolutely.
Name for a Gilmore Girls cover band. Gilmore Girls themed covered band.
I don't
Okay.
know. I know the theme song. I don't.
They would just be called like Luke's Diner or Chilton.
Yes.
Oh, those are great
I know.
names.
I can think of one, but not rapid fire lead.
Mhm.
We're so bad at this. Whose idea?
I can answer all the questions he asks in the podcast.
The Dead Richards.
What did he say?
Yeah.
The Dead
Yeah.
Richards.
Oh, that's terrible. Okay, would you rather go on a car ride with Jackson or Michelle? That's the other one. Michelle, of course.
No, it's Jackson's vegetables or Suki's cooking.
Well, I don't know the order of them.
Suki's cooking.
Suki's cooking, of course.
Unless Luke's Diner is an option, then I'll go there.
Yes.
Yes. And favorite moment? Well, we talked about all of them.
That's this whole podcast is been about.
Yeah.
Let's redo this podcast now.
Oh, and then he says, do you know the line of the word? Yeah, I know the whole song. Sing it out. I've made up harmony. That's a good
Yeah, I asked Matt because he just listened to so many times if he does the OOOs and he didn't know what I was talking about.
What? I could sing you the whole thing, but then you'll record it, and I don't want to be.
And I told him I listen on 2 times speed if I'm not skipping the intro. So where you lead, I'll follow. Anywhere you go.
You listen to the whole series like that? I don't
Yeah.
think I caught that the first time.
Yeah.
Like them talking even faster than they already do.
Oh yeah, 2 times
You
speed.
can't like thoroughly enjoy it in fast forward mode.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's not just the OOs. It's also the beats afterwards. Oh, bam, bam.
Yeah, I sing it every time. I just did it in my car on the way home. I was getting
You know,
in the mood for Gilmore.
my favorite part of listening to it in 2 times speed was like when Hep Alien played Believe It or Not, I'm Walking on Air. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air.
Oh, that was another good moment when Lorelai gives the speech at the wedding.
Oh,
No, I'm not getting married. You know what date's not happening? June 3rd.
That was not a good moment. That was
Yes,
a
it
cringe
was.
moment. That hurt my heart.
Oh, well, not good as in like happy, but good as in like memorable and important for the show.
All right. Well, this outro is just like Sam and Dean in Supernatural. It's not dying. So, put it out of its misery. Hey, thanks again,
Okay.
Tammy. It was great to have
Yes.
you on. We'll have to have you back.
Yes, please.
We loved you joining us. If you like this episode, we've noticed that when we ask you to like that, some people like and like comment stuff like that. So, it's not, we're not twisting your arm, but if you like this episode, feel free to like it, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at TVGuys1, or like text us or shoot us an email, some sort of feedback. If you're like, I've got thoughts, let us know. We love to hear from you guys.
Tell me your thoughts about how much better I am than Paul.
That's the only reason to talk to us, is to let us know how much higher. Tammy didn't do a fake British accent on this episode, so she already has a step up on him.
You don't like that? Because I do a pretty good, terrible fake British accent.
Here's the thing is that, Paul's not going to listen to this episode. Laura probably will, but Paul won't.
Well, she'll make him listen to it then.
We heard Paul's English accent, and that lost him points as a guest. So.
Okay, well, I won't do mine because it's pretty bad.
But again, thanks so much for listening. Special thanks to Tammy. Special thanks that
Yes.
finally it's over. That's what I was gonna do. Brian, I was gonna send you the picture of Frodo being like, "It's over." Once I was done, and I forgot to do that.
over.
You
But I can go back. What?
You can post it on Facebook.
I could do that. I can go back to watching shows that I want. Until next time,
Yes.
I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
I'm Tammy. Thanks for having me.
And we're reminding you to stay tuned and keep watching.